My name is John Baustista. I'm your co-host for today, and you are listening to the Marriage Savvy Podcast, where we believe that being savvy about your marriage can help you not get finessed by it. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the Marriage Rescue Program a little bit more in depth. And what I wanted to do today was really dive into phase one, because I want you guys to get a feel of what's actually being worked on in these types of phases and what kinds of tools that you would learn. So you definitely want to stick around coming up on today's show. The Marriage Savvy Podcast is for informational purposes only. It should not be used to diagnose, treat, or act as medical advice. Always seek the advice of your primary care physician, mental health professional, or qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition and/or mental illness. Hey Amanda, how's it going?
Going well, John. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm better now. I'm excited that it's fall, even though it doesn't feel like fall.
Right. It's my favorite season, but you're right. It's not cool yet.
Yeah, it's my favorite season too. In fact, when I go up north, man, those trees look so pretty up north.
Yes, I love all the colors.
I know. I can't wait to vacation up there. Okay, so last episode, we covered the Marriage Rescue Program there at the Marriage Place. Man, that's so cool. And what I wanted us to do today is to go over in detail phase one. Yeah, let's go ahead and start off and talk about this first phase and how you desire to stabilize the client.
Sure. So, yes, in the last episode, we talked about the 4 phases, but today we're really going to dive into phase 1, which we call triage, just stopping the bleeding. There's a crisis. The client has reached out because their spouse may have said, I want a divorce, I want out, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
Something initiated the crisis, and they're reaching out to the Marriage Place for help. So they get paired up with one of our amazing marriage coaches. I'm just one of them. It's really just helping them slow down, identify what's going on. And we use the book that Kim wrote, the Marriage Rescue ebook, which has the 20 tools. And we go through those and really customize it for the client and what they're going through in their specific relationship. Typically, we're going to start with tool 1, stop the clock on filing.
Yeah. Okay, so stopping the clock on filing.
Yes.
This is like a really important thing because it just helps people slow down enough to like regroup. Yes. So talk more about that tool.
Yeah. So typically when there are clients come in and they're in this crisis moment and somebody has said the words potentially divorce, separation, the spouse that's wanting to save the relationship is really anxious and may even start to say, okay, yeah, maybe we do need to get divorced. Let's go ahead and file, just because they're anxious and trying to maybe placate the leading out spouse, or they're just not even, they don't know what to do. So we sit down and really ask, why are we rushing in to file for divorce?
Yeah.
What is happening? We've got to slow down and ask what is really happening here. And also the leading out spouse that may have said or even is about to file, it doesn't mean that they're actually going to go through with that. In fact, as we do the work and the leading in spouse really puts these tools into place, and there's some change and some action has happened to create a difference in the relationship, the whole dynamic changes. And so slowing down the process is like first step.
Yeah. What would you recommend to somebody, some of the language that they might or could use if they're wanting to ask for their partner to stop the clock or maybe pause the clock? You know what I mean? We can't force people to do things, right? But we can definitely ask and request. Like, what is some of the language that someone can use if they're trying to do this first tool?
Yeah. So what's going to be helpful is to ask for time for your own understanding, not to try to
Mm,
convince the leaning out spouse that this doesn't need to happen. That's not going to
right.
be helpful. But to explain, you are getting this information, it's new, you would like time to process it. A lot of times the leaning out spouse has been thinking about this maybe even for months,
Oh, that's true.
years.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's a lot that could be happening for a long period of time, and the leaning in spouse, the one that is fighting for the relationship, is really just finding out, just getting this information. And so when they express, I just need time to work, maybe even with a coach, to process through this, to
Mm,
understand, to manage my anxiety, to figure out what to do next, the
yeah.
leaning out spouse is often more generous. Sometimes there's a lot of guilt on their part, and so they feel like, okay, I could allow my spouse to process through this. I have had a lot of time to get to where I'm at.
Yeah, like a lot of the times, divorce gets sprung up on one of the partners and it's kind of out of left field, or maybe they knew it was coming but didn't believe that it was actually going to happen. And so time is definitely uh helpful in this to process. That's genius. Okay. Solid. So that's the first tool. What's the next tool? What's something else that they could do in this first phase?
Number two, we would suggest to prolong, if possible, moving out. And this is really for either spouse. You can't control if your spouse moves out or not, but you can hopefully control whether you move out or not.
Mm,
So there's looking at the relationship and assessing where it's at, right? We want to know, is there a safety issue? Is the leaning out partner wanting to move out because they don't feel safe, or are they asking the other partner to move out because they don't feel physically or emotionally safe? If that's the
mhm.
case, then we would say yes, something needs to happen. Safety has to exist. But if
Yeah.
we can rule out safety is not an issue, then whatever that the person that's wanting to save the relationship can do to prolong moving out, to stay in the same space, it's just going to give them more time to demonstrate the growth that they've made, the changes that they can make, not with words but with action. So
Yeah.
again, it's buying more time.
Yeah. More time for someone to figure it out. And I can understand that this gets really complicated whenever there's children involved, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Man, like what would you tell somebody who is or might be like in a position where they're thinking about it, but then they're worried or anxious because if they do something about it, then the kids might be in the middle of this.
Yeah, they're thinking about leaving. Is
Hmm.
that the question?
Yeah.
We always encourage them to think about how it's going to affect the kids and to not do anything, not make a sudden move, like move out, until they know for sure. So if they're still a little bit uncertain about moving out, then wait, because the kids are going to be affected no matter what.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But as long as you can keep some sort of stability and there's a
Hmm.
chance that the relationship might be saved or changed, then work on that first so that the kids don't have to experience the instability and the
Yeah.
anxiety that come with just the unknown of moving out. So
Yeah.
stressful on kids.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Lots of stories from clients that have told me that they've seen their parents move out, and they wanted a divorce and they're moving out the same day, and so lots of change, instability.
It's
Uh,
traumatic.
it really is.
Yeah.
It really is. You did say something about safety, and I just want to clarify. Whenever you talk about safety, are we are we talking about trust, or is that like a little bit different? Is like a shade different? Because I think that safety, like what kind of safety are you saying is, if you don't have it, it's still okay to be around and stay in the same house, same roof?
Right. It is unique to every individual. So the coach is going to speak to the individual and really get an understanding for what the safety is for them. But typically, it's physical and emotional safety. If they
Okay.
don't have that, then it does make sense to move out and separate until that can be created.
Okay.
But trust is going to be a constant evolving process, right? We build trust over time, and it's going to be easier to do that if there's physical safety and even some emotional safety. We can build trust in the same environment living together. If that's not possible, then that makes sense to look at potentially separating.
By trust, and correct me if I'm wrong, like we're understanding that as the ability and maybe even the belief that your partner has your best interest in mind.
That's right. Yes.
Is there anything else that you would add to that with this idea of trust?
I think you covered it. Just that
Okay.
it's built over time with every interaction. It's either built or deconstructed. And so our goal is to be building the trust and understanding what does build trust for our spouse.
Yeah.
It's not trying to talk them into something. It's not being manipulative. It's definitely not having unbridled self-expression. That all breaks trust.
Mm,
But if we can have a level of understanding, if we can slow down, if we can manage the anxiety, trust will be built. It's
yeah.
easier to do that in when you're living under the same roof than when you're in different separate locations.
Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, so what's the next tool after we've stopped the clock on filing, after we've prolonged moving out? What else can we do?
So then number 3 would be keeping your emotions in check. That's a really challenging
Oh
one.
man, for sure. And everybody goes, "Oh man."
Ah.
Go ahead.
Especially right away, if you're just finding out that your spouse is unhappy or has filed for divorce or is mentioning the word divorce, it makes sense that you would go right to kind of a stress reaction, and you might say some things you wish you hadn't said. You might cry uncontrollably. You might
Mhm.
be very reactive, and that would be completely normal. What we're trying to do is learn how to manage that, learn ways to manage those emotions, to let the energy out when you're not with your spouse, so that when you are with your spouse, you are able to show up a little more steady, a little more confident. And back to the trust point, if
Mhm.
you can be regulated, you're going to be able to connect. The trust can be built, not when you're dysregulated.
You know what? Let's just pause on that one. I mean, I really appreciated the way that you phrased that. You said to let that energy out whenever your partner's not around.
Right.
Now, people normally think, "Oh, no, 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 I need them to see that I'm hurting." Right? But that right now in this context doesn't build connection. That just kind of exasperates the issue, right? But you're
Right.
saying let that energy out when they're not around so that you could regulate and show up for your partner in a regulated state.
Yes.
Man, that's clutch. I don't think you know what? I've never heard it phrased that way in all my life until now.
So there's lots of things you
That's
can
awesome.
do when we talk about letting it out. You could journal.
Yeah.
You could do some exercising. You could maybe talk to a coach. That would be a really good way to work through those emotions.
Yeah.
But the one thing that we want to encourage you not to do is to take all that emotion and dump it all over your spouse, which is something that maybe you have done in the past. And we would talk about that too in coaching.
Clutch. That is a clutch. Keeping your emotions in check. Just for people who may be curious, I know that this is based in research, but in order to reduce or a way to reduce anxiety is movement.
Yes.
And anxiety, tells us that we're not safe and that we're not going to be able to endure whatever we're experiencing. And that's why we need to run. We need to hide. We need to be safe. In a situation like this, you may not feel safe if you're the partner that is on the receiving end of somebody wanting a divorce. And so if you're in a situation like this, man, how important is it to keep your emotions in check? And man, I love that, getting that energy out, creating some movement, being able to process with a friend or a coach, like that's just so clutch and wise. Okay, so what's next? What other tools can we uh, look to in this first phase?
So, number 4, desperation is not attractive.
Oh,
Keeping
it's
that in
not?
mind. Shoot, you've been doing it wrong all this time.
Oh man.
So, no begging, pleading, just constantly being, woe is me. That's not going to win your spouse back.
Are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure there's a song in the 60s and 70s, I ain't scared to beg, right? Who was that? The Temptations?
I don't even know that song, but
I think we need to go back and tell them, man,
let's
they got it.
play it.
They need to, yeah, that's what we need to do. They need to go and maybe hang out with the coach at the marriage place and go through this marriage rescue program.
Yeah.
Okay.
In coaching, we would encourage the client to think about it. Flip the tables, right? What if you were the one that was done? You had all this anger and frustration and contempt. You wanted out of the relationship and your spouse is begging you to stay. What are you going to feel? What are you going to think?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna push back. I'm gonna push away.
Yeah, you're probably not going to want to come home. You're not going to
Yeah.
want to pick up the phone. You're going to want to get away from that. You're going to feel
Yeah.
suffocated.
Yeah.
But what if the opposite, your spouse was really calm and confident and they
Regulated.
allowed you to have your space? They were regulated.
Yeah.
That feels different. That builds trust.
Mm. In some way, if I were on the receiving end of somebody showing up confidently, giving me my space, I would I, I would place my trust in them. Like that would make me feel like my needs are being heard and met. Like they're taking it seriously,
Yeah,
right?
almost like they get you, right?
Yes. Yes. They
Yeah.
understand, and I can see that they understand because they're giving me space. They're not singing a temptation song to me, 24/7, right? Uh that makes sense. Now why is it our natural inclination to move towards desperation?
Right. I think it goes back to just insecurity and maybe even attachment, right? Once our most important person
Great
starts
point.
pulling away,
Great point.
we feel that and we want to get them back desperately.
Yeah. A lot of people might simplify it and reduce it to, well, he's my husband or she's my wife, and I love them. But you just pointed out some really, really insightful things that we do need to process. We do need to process, how our parents or our caregivers showed up or did not show up,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
all of that is necessary for processing, regulating so that we don't just act out of desperation, say things out of desperation, do things out of desperation.
Yes. Is what we're doing and saying, is that loving? Is it coming across as loving to our spouse or is it desperate? Does it come across as manipulative, self-serving?
Great
Right.
point.
Yeah.
Man, okay. Desperation kind of seems like me centered, right? Like if
Definitely.
I'm going to be desperate, it's because hey, I'm not good with this decision. I'm not good with this situation. I'm not good with potentially divorcing.
Yeah.
All right, and what is our last tool that you wanted to go over today?
So our last one, and I feel like we were kind of building up to this, it's anxiety, and it can definitely sabotage all of the points we've already made have a little element of anxiety. Anxiety's big. It
Mm,
plays a big part in especially that initial, oh my gosh, my spouse wants out. Of course our anxiety's triggered.
mm,
But man, can it hurt our chances of saving the relationship if we
yeah.
let anxiety lead.
What kinds of expressions or behaviors would show that anxiety is leading in a context like this, in a situation like this?
Yeah. So it could be constantly calling, constantly asking, are we okay? How are you doing? Do you love me? I love you. I love you. I love you. There's a lot of that's also desperate, but it's anxiety driven, right? Because
Yeah.
love isn't demanding and needy and insecure. It's secure. It's calm and confident and I don't need you to tell me 20 times that you love me, right? I already am
Yeah.
okay. Even if
Yeah.
you're having a hard day, even if you potentially want out of the relationship, I'm
Mm,
confident to know that I'm still okay.
That I'm still okay. That reminds me of something, this idea of showing up for yourself, right? Like, in order for me to show up for my relationship, I needed to I need to show up for myself. And anxiety can just roll over that. I mean, it can just destroy that.
That's right.
Um, I would understand people who are experiencing the receiving end of somebody wanting a divorce to call, to text, to check. But what we've been learning in this episode is all of that isn't helpful. It doesn't respect, and it doesn't help their partner see that they understand them, right?
That's right.
Uh, Man, can you define a little bit more what anxiety is for people who may not um, understand? I think a lot of people say, "Oh no, I get stressed. I don't have anxiety. I just get stressed. I just get stressed
Yes.
out." That's not for me. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not like that. I don't need medication. They say these things, and I'm like, man, I think anxiety is more than stress, and I think you probably experience more than stress. So, can you tell and define what anxiety is?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a stab. I think,
Okay.
first of all, we all have anxiety to some degree, but the way that it plays out in relationships where, especially, there's stress, there's a threat, there's fear, is this hyper arousal, right? We talk about the window of tolerance and not being in our window.
Yeah.
Anxiety is very disconnected. We're either dwelling on the past or the future, which neither do we have control over. It's not
Mm,
present. It's a dysregulation, worrying about something we can't control, and
man.
it's felt by those that we love. That it doesn't feel safe, it doesn't feel like love,
Right.
and they can sense it, they can feel it. We often have clients that reach out to us and their spouse is even in an active affair. And there's a lot of anxiety around that. Even though the
Wow.
leaning in spouse is wanting to save the marriage, they will start hyperfixating on the affair and snooping
Oh,
and
right. Yeah.
trying to get all the information, asking all the questions. And that's
Mhm.
anxiety driven. And it's pushing their spouse potentially even more into that affair, right? It's pushing them away,
Right.
and instead of allowing space for this
Yeah.
both spouses really to figure out what do they want.
Yeah. Man, that is so insightful. I would imagine that people without something structured like this, people are prone to all of these behaviors, expressions that continue to push their partner away.
Right. I think we all are. That's human instinct.
Yeah.
So I want to normalize it for people that might be listening that think, oh gosh, I've done it all wrong. It's not too late to start applying some of these tools and do it differently. You can still
Yeah.
make an impact.
I'm not really sure about the neurobiologics of this, but it develops in the amygdala, right? So our body is actually made in a way that does give us this fight or flight type of response to life,
Yes,
right? Because anxiety doesn't just come from emotional threats; it comes from physical threats as
that's
well.
right.
You
Survival
know,
instinct.
survival
Mhm.
instincts. So if you're in a forest and there's a fire coming, you're gonna have lots of anxiety because you're trying to
Right.
survive. And so anxiety is not something that some people have and some people don't. You're saying everybody has it.
That's right.
And we can point to even the fact that we are created in a way that has this response in case we are threatened, whether that be emotional or physical.
Absolutely. And we take that far deeper when we go into phase 2 of doing individual work.
Yeah.
But once we really start managing and leading our anxiety, that is where we will notice the biggest change in our individual growth journeys and our relationships.
Yeah. You know what that sounds like? People having more freedom to choose what they're going to do. They have more freedom to choose what they're going to do with their anxiety instead of just being uh, controlled by it.
Yeah, letting anxiety drive the bus. That's what I think we
Drive the
all
bus.
do if we're not paying attention and managing it. It's managing
Yeah.
us, it's driving our bus.
Yeah.
And it might drive it right off a cliff if we don't watch out.
Yeah. So guys, let's drive our own buses and let's stay in our lanes.
Good.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Amanda. I'm excited for you to come back, and we're going to jump back into some more tools that Kim has written in her marriage rescue ebook, one that you can find online at www.themarriageplace.com. You can download it right off of our website. Amanda, thank you so much. I will see you next time.
Thanks, John.